In the heart of this desert resort town, beneath the neon glow and the roar of thousands of motorcycles, a storm was brewing. The annual Laughlin River Run, one of the largest motorcycle rallies in the country, was about to become ground zero for one of the most violent biker clashes in American history. For decades, two of the most feared motorcycle clubs in the world, the HELLS Angels and the MONGOLS, had been locked in a bitter rivalry. Their feud had left a trail of blood across the West, with shootings, bombings, and stabbings marking every chapter of their war. But by 2002, that tension had reached a breaking point. Rumors spread quickly through the rally, whispers of a confrontation that everyone knew was coming. Both clubs were present in force, and the atmosphere was thick with hostility. Nobody could have imagined, however, that the coming showdown would erupt not on the open road, but inside a crowded casino packed with unsuspecting civilians. The roots of the rivalry. To understand how it came to this, we need to go back to California in the late 1970s. At the time, the HELLS Angels were the undisputed kings of the motorcycle world, dominant, feared, and entrenched across the state. But their supremacy began to face a new challenge from a fast-growing rival, the MONGOLS Motorcycle Club. The MONGOLS were founded in 1969 in Montebello, California, by a group of Hispanic Vietnam War veterans who were denied membership in the HELLS Angels due to the club's whites-only policy. Out of exclusion, they built their own brotherhood, one that would soon rise to power and threaten the Angels' long-held dominance. Within a few short years, the MONGOLS had expanded rapidly, establishing chapters throughout Southern California, in Bakersfield, San Diego, and Los Angeles. While both clubs were involved in criminal enterprises, the drug trade became their primary source of revenue, and the first major flashpoint between the two groups. Yet, surprisingly, drugs weren't the true cause of their war. It was something more symbolic, something sacred. The Patch War. In the world of outlaw bikers' colors, the embroidered patches worn on the back of a member's jacket are everything. They represent a club's identity, loyalty, and most importantly, territory. Each patch has 3 sections: the club's name at the top, its logo in the center, and its territory at the bottom. For decades, every HELLS Angels jacket proudly bore one word on the bottom rocker: California. That single word signified that the Angels claimed the entire state as their domain, and no other club was permitted to wear it. But in 1977, the MONGOLS defied that unspoken law. They began stitching California onto their own colors. To the Angels, this was nothing short of blasphemy, a direct challenge to their authority. They saw it as war. The first shots fired. On September 5, 1977, the Angels made their move. 2 MONGOLS members, Emerson Redbeard Morris and Raymond Jingle Smith, were riding near Escondido, California, when a car carrying 2 HELLS Angels pulled up beside them. Automatic gunfire tore through the air. Both MONGOLs were killed instantly. But even death didn't end the insult. At their funeral, an unknown man placed a red and white bouquet, the Angels' colors, on the gravesite. Moments later, the car he had arrived in exploded, injuring 3 mourners. The message was unmistakable. The Angels wanted war. The MONGOLs struck back swiftly. They assassinated a high-ranking HELLS Angel outside a biker bar in Lemon Grove, followed by the killing of a chapter president only weeks later. The lines had been drawn. What followed was a decade-long blood feud marked by relentless retaliation, a fragile truce. By the late 1990s, after years of death and destruction, HELLS Angels leader Sonny Barger and the MONGOLs leadership attempted peace. Both sides agreed to divide California. The HELLS Angels would control the north. The MONGOLs would rule the south. For a brief moment, the bloodshed stopped. But peace among outlaws rarely lasts. Before long, The Mongols violated the truce by opening a new chapter in San Jose, deep in HELLS Angels territory. The fragile peace shattered, and the old hostilities reignited with even greater ferocity. Rise of the Mongols. By the end of the 1990s, the Mongols were evolving faster than anyone expected. They began recruiting heavily from Los Angeles street gangs, rapidly expanding their ranks. While many of these new recruits didn't even own motorcycles, they brought something else: numbers, aggression, and a new kind of street-level ruthlessness. By comparison, the HELLS Angels were older, wealthier, and more established, but slower to adapt. In Northern California, the Angels had only 5 chapters, while the Mongols boasted 39 in Los Angeles alone. One federal agent summed up the situation bluntly. You had young Mongols doing drive-by shootings, and no HELLS Angels responding. Most Angels had already done their time in prison. Now they were older, living comfortably, and not looking for war. But the Mongols were hungry, and soon that hunger would lead them to Laughlin, and to one of the bloodiest nights in modern biker history, the Laughlin River Run massacre, when chaos erupted in the casino. By 2002, the HELLS Angels and the Mongols were living in a fragile peace that everyone knew couldn't last. Inside the Angels' ranks, older members who had already served long prison sentences were warning restraint. They didn't want to go back behind bars. But the younger riders weren't having it. "We can't just sit back," one reportedly said. "The Mongols are making us look weak." The resentment was mutual, and with every passing week, the tension built towards something inevitable. That explosion came at the 19th annual Laughlin River Run in Nevada, an event that drew hundreds of thousands of bikers from around the world. Most who attended were regular, law-abiding motorcycle enthusiasts. But among them was always a smaller, far more dangerous contingent: outlaw bikers from America's most feared clubs. Laughlin was a small town, barely 8,000 residents, but it hosted over 5 million tourists a year, thanks to its 9 casinos and desert backdrop. Normally, the Angels and Mongols managed to keep their distance during the rally. The heavy police presence was enough to keep everyone cautious. Nobody wanted to be the one to start a war in front of thousands of cameras. But 2002 would be different. Both clubs rolled into Laughlin in full force, and though they booked hotels on opposite sides of town, the HELLS Angels at the Flamingo and the Mongols at Harrah's Casino, the tension was so thick it was only a matter of time before something gave way. Heat calm before the storm. Law enforcement was fully aware that trouble was brewing. More than 15 undercover officers, including ATF agent Jay Dobbins, who would later infiltrate the Arizona HELLS Angels and write a best-selling book about it, were scattered throughout the crowd. At first, the weekend passed without major incident. But beneath the surface, hostilities simmered. By Sunday night, April 7th, the fuse had finally been lit. The spark came when Mongols at Harrah's learned that a HELLS Angels motorcycle and memorabilia were being displayed at a booth near the Golden Nugget Hotel. Enraged, a group of Mongols stormed over to destroy the display. When they arrived, they began harassing booth attendants, but before violence could erupt, local police arrived and blocked their path. Outnumbered, the officers quickly found themselves surrounded by an aggressive crowd of Mongols, who hurled insults and threats. Fearing the situation would spiral out of control, the police called for a SWAT team and reinforcements from Las Vegas. Luckily, the Mongols backed off before any real confrontation occurred, walking back to Harrah's, but the damage had been done. The boiling point. Later that evening, a Las Vegas police captain visited Harrah's, hoping to calm the situation. He warned the Mongols directly. "We know you're here for a face-off with the HELLS Angels. Don't let it happen." The Mongols, keeping their tone cool, denied any such plans. Moments later, the same captain drove to the Flamingo, where he found the HELLS Angels gathered. He urged them to stay on their property and avoid violence. The Angels brushed him off. They told police they were outlaws by choice, they didn't need protection, and they could handle their own business. Back at HELLS, however, things were unraveling fast. While most angels had stayed at the Flamingo, a few younger, more reckless members had decided to drink at HELLS bar, a direct provocation. The Mongols noticed immediately. Stares turned to words, and the words turned ugly. A Mongol deliberately bumped into an angel who was playing poker. The angel, furious, clenched his fists but restrained himself, knowing it was a trap. Nearby, at a blackjack table, another Mongol and angel traded insults. The angel finally said, "Let's take this outside." At that point, the situation tipped. The call to arms. Accounts vary about what happened next, but two possible stories emerged. Either the angels inside HELLS called their brothers at the Flamingo, warning that they were surrounded by Mongols, or a police officer alerted the angels that their members at HELLS were in danger. Either way, the result was the same. Within minutes, the angels decided to mobilize. According to an ATF affidavit, one member asked, "You know what's going to happen if we go up there?" "Yeah," another replied. "But what choice do we have?" "Let's mount up," someone shouted. 10 minutes later, around 30 HELLS angels, armed with knives, hammers, and baseball bats, stormed into HELLS casino. An angel reportedly warned a casino employee, "You better get out of here, things are about to get ugly." Leading the charge was Raymond Ray Folks, Sergeant-at-Arms of the Sonoma, California chapter. He and the angels pushed through the casino floor, searching for their rivals. Then, amid the flashing lights and slot machines, the two sides finally met. The first blows. Standing in their path was Roger Pinney, national president of the Mongols, alongside his Sergeant-at-Arms Ruben Doc Cavazos, and several dozen armed Mongols members. Pinney looked to Cavazos and muttered, "We need to calm this down before it gets out of control." Cavazos shook his head. "It's already too late." According to witnesses, for a brief moment, both groups exchanged words, even some nervous laughter. But then, without warning, Raymond Folks kicked a Mongol square in the chest and lunged forward. That single act unleashed total chaos. Within seconds, the casino floor exploded into violence. Fists, knives, bats, and bullets filling the air. Innocent bystanders screamed and dove for cover as America's two deadliest motorcycle gangs turned HELLS casino into a war zone. Tensions between the Mongols and the HELLS Angels finally exploded into an all-out war inside the Laughlin casino. What began as a confrontation quickly turned into a massive, chaotic brawl, with members on both sides swinging hammers, knives, beer bottles, and even bar stools as improvised weapons. In the middle of the chaos, Mongols member Penny saw one of his brothers being stomped and kicked on the ground by a HELLS angel. He charged in to help, shoving the angel off his fallen comrade. But the attacker responded by pulling a knife and stabbing Penny 4 times in the back. Luckily, several Mongols nearby saw what happened. They rushed over, chased the angel away, and dragged Penny out through a back exit. They loaded him into a waiting taxi that sped him to the hospital, where he miraculously survived and made a full recovery. Back inside the casino, Cal Schaefer, an Arizona HELLS angel, was wildly swinging a hammer to hold off 4 Mongols who had cornered him. When they kept advancing, he drew a handgun and opened fire. He hit Richard Noland, a Mongol who was later hospitalized with multiple gunshot wounds. Elsewhere, another angel tackled a Mongol to the floor while his partner stabbed the man repeatedly. Near the blackjack tables, the most chaotic area of all, security footage captured an angel firing his gun indiscriminately at groups of Mongols as the crowd scattered in panic. Meanwhile, Rodney Cox, another HELLS angel, built a makeshift barricade using casino tables to shield a wounded brother. When a Mongol approached, Cox shouted, "This is my area. I'm protecting my friend. Stay back." The Mongol didn't listen, and Cox smashed him in the head with a wrench. Not far away, Mongol Benjamin Leva was fighting another angel when James Hannigan grabbed him from behind and stabbed him in the stomach. Leva staggered away, trying to escape, only to run straight into Schaefer, who shot him 3 times, hitting his elbow, stomach, and back. Somehow, Leva survived. But fellow Mongol Anthony Barrera wasn't so fortunate. He was later found stabbed to death on the casino floor. Within minutes, police stormed the building and restored order. By then, blood covered the floors and tables. Officers arrested 42 Mongols and 70 Hells Angels, confiscating 14 guns and over 100 knives, many soaked in blood. During the cleanup, police discovered Jeremy Dean Bell, a Hells Angel, suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest. He was rushed to the hospital but died before arriving. Reviewing casino security footage later, investigators also saw another angel, Robert Tumley, hurling chairs and bar stools before being shot in the abdomen and collapsing. In total, 2 Hells Angels and 1 Mongol were killed, with dozens more wounded. Despite the entire riot being caught on security cameras, progress in court took more than 5 years. In the end, most of the charges were dropped. Both clubs maintained their strict code of silence, refusing to cooperate with authorities. Only 7 Angels and 6 Mongols ever served time. Among them were Rodney Cox and James Hannigan, who received 2 years in federal prison. Raymond Folks got up to 30 months, while Calvin Schaefer received the longest sentence, 4 years. The River Run riot shocked law enforcement nationwide. It proved that the biker wars had reached a dangerous new level, turning public spaces into battlefields. In response, federal agents launched a deep undercover campaign to infiltrate both the Mongols and the Angels, most famously known as Operation Black Biscuit. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is one of the most famous groups and easily the largest motorcycle club in the world, with a membership of over 6,467 chapters in 59 different countries. You might be wondering what makes this motorcycle club so special. Well, there are several reasons why anyone would want to join the Hells Angels. While a love of motorcycles is easily one of the most common motives, a sense of belonging, especially in an infamous club once shrouded in an aura of mystery and respect, is another. From a distance, the Hells Angels seem so cool, and it's easy for many to be enticed into wanting to join. However, joining this club isn't for the faint-hearted. Since many do not make the cut, becoming a full member of the Hells Angels can take a really long time, sometimes spanning years. To become a member of the Hells Angels, candidates are first expected to be true motorcycle enthusiasts. They must also own a valid driver's license and a motorcycle of over 750 cubic centimeters, as the average member is expected to ride at least 20,000 kilometers a year in strict formation. Candidates are also required to drive U.S.-built motorcycles, with Harley-Davidson, Indian, and Victory being the most common brands. Prospective members who have applied to be law enforcement officers, such as prison guards or police, are excluded from the club. Child molesters are also not allowed. The initiation process starts with a candidate passing the above criteria. Once that is out of the way, the candidate, now considered a prospective member, enters the stage of being deemed a hangaround. As a hangaround, prospective members are invited to meet older club members at some club meetings, and this stage could last for a long time. If the hangaround still shows interest at this stage, they are then deemed an associate. They remain classified this way for a year or 2. After these years pass, an associate is reclassified as a prospect and is now allowed to fully participate in some of the club's activities. However, they do not have voting privileges since the initiation process is still underway. If the prospect proves they have what it takes, they are then upgraded to full membership or full patch, which is the last phase of the initiation process. The full patch refers to the club's 4-piece insignia given to its members. This includes the Death Head logo, 2 rockers, a top rocker with the words Hells Angels, and a bottom rocker showing the country, state, or charter location. Rectangular MC patch beneath the wings of the Death Head signifies motorcycle club. Prospects are only allowed to wear the bottom rocker along with the MC patch. The final stage of becoming a full member begins with the voting process. A prospect can only become a full member or full patch when they are unanimously voted in by all full members of the club. Hence, a prospect is often required to travel across chapters in their country and introduce themselves to other members. Voting becomes easier once these members have gotten to know the prospect and have vetted them. The prospect must receive 100% of the votes, as a single vote against them means the prospecting stage continues until they are fully voted in. Once they have been voted in, prospects are required to reaffirm their loyalty to the club, and the Hells Angels rocker is finally awarded to them as the final part of the initiation ceremony. At this stage, known as being patched, prospects become full members. Full members of the Hells Angels are recognized by their infamous insignia, the full patch, but this remains the property of the club, not the member, even after the initiation process. The club's official colors are red lettering on a white background, leading to the nickname, the Red and White. Members wear their patches on leather or denim jackets and vests. Some members wear an AFFA patch, meaning Angels Forever, Forever Angels, indicating lifelong membership. Another patch consists of 2 Nazi-style SS lightning bolts beneath the words Filthy Few, worn by select members. According to the club, this patch is a type of merit badge awarded to members who are first to arrive at and last to leave a party. However, some law enforcement officers allege that this patch is worn by members who have committed or are willing to commit murder on behalf of the club. In some cases, members may wear patches that signify their rank within the organization. These small, rectangular patches display the titles of the members in red letters on a white background. Common titles include President, Sergeant at Arms, Treasurer, Vice President, and more. If a member is ejected from the club or chooses to leave, they are required to return their patches to the club. Members are expected to pay dues that finance burials and motorcycle runs. Attendance at club meetings and motorcycle runs is also mandatory. Contrary to popular belief, most Hells Angels members are not drug addicts. The club prohibits intravenous drug use, and many members are known to be fitness enthusiasts. According to Jay Dobbins, an investigative agent who went undercover and infiltrated the Hells Angels from 2001 to 2003, the club has strict rules concerning interactions with women. Wives or girlfriends of members are strictly off limits, and violations of this rule are met with severe, often violent, consequences. Dobbins also mentioned that members are not allowed to speak to one another while wearing sunglasses. Additionally, members must remove their riding gloves before shaking hands. Prospects are forbidden from patting a member's back or touching the Hells Angels patch, with severe consequences for breaking this rule. Those who leave the club on bad terms have all possessions related to the club taken away from them, including the removal of tattoos that indicate club affiliation. Prospects, along with members' girlfriends and wives, are allowed to wear the number 81, which stands for Support 81, with 8 representing H and 1 representing A. The Hells Angels do not have an overall president. Instead, the club is governed by regional officers representing localized chapters at monthly meetings. These chapters have a degree of autonomy regarding minor policy changes and member discipline. Rankings in the club's organization include president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, sergeant at arms, and road captain, each carrying out significant duties. Responsibilities within their chapters vary, and regional officers are divided into 2 groups. The first group comprises those who attend the West Coast Officers Meeting, also known as WESCOM. The Westcom Group is charged with conducting the policy actions and affairs of the Hells Angels chapters in the Western United States. The second group includes those who attend the East Coast Officers Meeting, or ECOM, which governs the chapters in the Eastern United States. Although the Hells Angels' founding location was in San Bernardino, California, its unofficial founding location eventually moved to Oakland, California, under the leadership of Sonny Barger, who succeeded Otto Friedli as the de facto national president. This shift made the Oakland chapter one of the most prominent and regarded as first among equals due to Barger's reputation. The Oakland chapter has the largest membership of any chapter in the United States and is responsible for major decision-making within the club. Any other motorcycle club wishing to be affiliated with the Hells Angels must first apply to the Oakland chapter for membership and be monitored and approved by them before being granted membership. The Hells Angels' traditional motto is Angels Forever, Forever Angels. They also have other slogans such as, "When we do right, nobody remembers," When we do wrong, nobody forgets. 3 can keep secret if 2 are dead. And when in doubt, knock them out, the latter coined by New York City chapter member Vincent Big Vinny Girolamo. Joining the Hells Angels is far from easy. Prospective members often spend years on a wait list and devote their remaining years as full members to the club. The Hells Angels are not a casual, recreational group. For many members, joining is one of the best experiences of their lives. But leaving the club is a different matter altogether. Members can only leave if they are expelled, as there is no concept of retirement, except in rare cases where certain members are allowed to depart. Still, some have taken the daring step to leave. One notable example is George Christie. I felt we became the people we rebelled against, and that's exactly what I told them at the meeting when I left, Christie said. At one time, we would interact with all the clubs up and down the coast, and by 2011, we were fighting every major outlaw bike club in the United States, plus law enforcement. That's where some people lost perspective of what the initial intent was of a whole outlaw lifestyle. It seemed more military, like an army fighting another army. Christie was a Hells Angels leader for 35 years out of a 40-year membership. He was drawn to the outlaw biker lifestyle as a kid in the mid-1950s when he first saw a long-haired, denim-jacketed biker riding through the streets without a care in the world. Christie described that moment as life-changing. What truly fueled his interest, however, was an incident during high school when his principal accused him of cheating because he scored highly on an IQ test. Christie, who did poorly in school, thought, "If this is a polite society, no thank you," as he left the principal's office. After high school, Christie joined the Marine Corps. When he was discharged, he bought a motorcycle and started hanging out with other biker groups, such as the Satan Slaves and Question Marks, though his ultimate dream was to join the Hells Angels. By 1976, Christie had become a full patch member, and soon after, he rose in rank, founding the Ventura, California chapter in 1978 and even carrying the Olympic torch during the 1984 Los Angeles Games. Despite being a high-ranking member, Christie also worked for the Department of Defense. In 1978, his co-workers discovered he was a Hells Angels leader, a fact that came to light during a brutal conflict with a rival group involving fights, shootings, and bombings, which led to his resignation. Trouble followed Christie. He was later charged with orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot involving a leader of the Mexican Mafia prison gang. While in prison, Christie learned that rival clubs did not fight each other behind bars, which motivated him to push for peace on the streets. By the time he was acquitted in 1987, Christie had already started negotiating peace between rival motorcycle clubs. His efforts seemed successful until the 2002 Laughlin River Run, an annual motorcycle rally in Nevada, where a brawl between the MONGOLS and Hells Angels left 3 people dead. By 2011, the Hells Angels were embroiled in conflicts with nearly every major outlaw motorcycle club and law enforcement. Christie wanted the wars to end, but others did not share his vision. "I felt that groups were fracturing off, doing their own thing, if you will. It was tough," he said. "I decided that if I stayed in the club, it would strictly be ego-driven. I didn't want to be the guy who used to be a Hells Angels leader." In 2011, Christie made his decision to leave. He walked into a club meeting, announced his departure, removed his patches, and laid them on the table. His final words to his former club members were, "We have become the people that we rebelled against, and I'm gone." While Christie argued that he followed protocols and formally quit the club, it appeared that attempting to leave was a mistake. He was soon accused of being an informant, and his status was changed to out bad, meaning he was no longer in good standing with the Hells Angels and could not have any relations or contact with other members. In essence, he had been excommunicated from the club. Christie claimed he was shamed on social media and faced accusations from people, including strangers. The sense of kinship and community that had initially spurred Christie to join the outlaw biker lifestyle was stripped from him simply because he chose to leave. In an interview, Christie was asked why being out bad still seemed to bother him. His response was, "Being out bad with no contact in the outlaw motorcycle world is like a stigma. They don't want people interacting with you. They don't want people talking to you." Club members, who I was friendly with after I left, had their memberships in jeopardy if they communicated with me. He continued, "When I left, it kind of reminded me of a divorce. At first, everyone wanted to be amiable. They weren't happy about my decision, but they understood it. As things progressed, it became aggressive, and it was hard to take. The phone rings and you pick up, and it's one of your former brothers telling you you're no longer a friend to us. That's my whole life, because I didn't have many friends outside the club. It was a hard pill to swallow." George Christie wasn't the only one to suffer this tragic fate after leaving the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. "My name is Jay Dobbins. I'm a retired undercover federal agent, and I infiltrated the Hells Angels," said Jay Dobbins, who infiltrated the Hells Angels between 2001 and 2003. Dobbins, a former football player and athlete, decided to join the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms ATF after surviving a critical shooting during an operation in 1987. By 2002, when the war between the Hells Angels and the Mongols was at its peak, federal law enforcement launched an undercover operation called Operation Black Biscuit. Dobbins, posing as a gun runner and debt collector, went by the name Jay Davis and was known to gang members as Jaybird. Dobbins staged a fake murder to gain the Hells Angels' trust. A law enforcement officer posed as a MONGOLS biker, covered in lamb blood and brains, and was laid in a shallow grave for photographs and videos. Dobbins mailed a blood-stained MONGOLS patch to the Hells Angels, impressing the leadership so much that they immediately voted him as a fully patched member of the Mesa, Arizona charter, although they later denied this. Unfortunately, as Dobbins moved up the ranks, the lifestyle began to strain his family life. "I had an argument with my wife. At one point, I came home after being away for an extended period. I walked in like Jaybird Davis walks into my house, and she's like, 'You cannot be gone and come here and treat me and our kids like we're street people.'" Despite acknowledging that the Hells Angels could be dangerous, Dobbins admitted to respecting some members. After his true identity was revealed in 2004, the Hells Angels felt betrayed and directed their threats at his family. The plans to inject him with HIV, gang rape his wife and daughter, and kidnap and murder his son were uncovered. The ATF downplayed the threats, claiming no one had forced Dobbins to go undercover. Even when an arson attack occurred at his Tucson, Arizona home with his family inside, the Bureau didn't take the threats seriously. Though his family survived, their home and belongings were destroyed. Dobbins filed and won a lawsuit against the ATF in 2014. He later wrote a book, No Angel: My Harrowing Undercover Journey to the Inner Circle of the Hells Angels, which became a New York Times bestseller. The book detailed the Hells Angels investigation and its impact on his career and life. Despite the tragic events following his departure, Dobbins now runs a company focused on law enforcement training. Finally, there is the case of David LaBrava. Unlike others who faced hardship after leaving the Hells Angels, LaBrava left in good standing. Known for his role as Happy Loman in the FX series Sons of Anarchy, LaBrava was a real-life member of the Hells Angels. Initially hired as a technical advisor for the show in 2008 to ensure accurate depictions of a motorcycle club, he was later given a role and portrayed the hitman Happy Loman. LaBrava stayed with the Hells Angels until 2019, when he announced his departure via an Instagram post. "I want to say I am no longer a member of the largest motorcycle club in the world, the Hells Angels MC. The only club I'm a member of now is the human race," he wrote. He added that it was his own decision to leave and that he was no longer a patch holder, considering himself a civilian. Unlike others, LaBrava's exit was amicable, and he has had no negative experiences with the club since.